Mikey felt heavy as he tried to get up. He groaned as he sat up.
Morning,
he thought internally. He tried to pull himself up, to no avail. It was probably easier to get out from underneath a cement block than it was to get out of his bed right now. He didn't understand why he felt so heavy, or so slow, or so tired. All he had to do was get out of bed, go to the kitchen, and make breakfast. He could probably do it. He'd only done it 1,000,000 times. But why was today so hard? All Mikey could manage to do was roll himself over until he slumped off the bed frame and hit the floor hard like an old seal getting off of a rock on a beachfront, down to the hard, flat, cold floor. Why is it so cold? Mikey managed to stand straight up like a coat hanger, or a man who had just been tasered, before slowly returning back to his groggy state, but on his feet now. So that's progress. And still so heavy. Maybe he'd go to Draxum later. Nah, no need to bother him. Leo was finally making progress, and he didn't want to get in the way of that. All he wanted to do was make pancakes. Within a few minutes, he heard a small reptilian snore coming in from behind him, as a large reptilian frame of his brother, Raphael, came barreling into the kitchen, still groggy and half asleep, like a man who had just had a major hangover from a Vegas party. The floor managed to rumble a bit as he slumped into his favorite seat at the dining table, just slightly off from the end of it, but very close to it. Like the spot on a picnic bench you would usually sit on the very end when you were a kid.
Morning.
Morning, Raph, Mikey said chipperly. Raph grunted in response, his left hand twitching.
Man, next week can't come here fast enough, am I right?
Raph sighed, referring to his eye patch that was itching like crazy. His eye was pretty messed up for the previous battle, and it would definitely show later, and the area around it would scar. But despite everything, he'd get to keep his sight, provided he didn't scratch the mystic medicine that Draxum gave him, which had several side effects, one of which was eye itching, apparently. Ugh. Chocolate chip pancakes are almost done, Mikey replied. Have a seat.
I'm already in my seat, Mikey. But nice. Awesome.
Raph said, grinning as he grabbed some homemade chocolate sauce. Donnie came in next, compiling programs to rebuild his friend Sheldon, not even noticing the two, barely even looking up from his datapad as he addressed the two. Do I smell the saccharine smell of sugar cooking, Michael? Because if so, count me in. Again, not even looking up from his datapad, only motioning with his hand. Like his neck couldn't even work, and the only thing that could work was his hand and his wrist. Finally, Leo came in stretching.
It feels so good to walk without crutches again,
Leo declared happily. And my skin is now one shade of lovely lime green. Well, I hope you're hungry, big bro, because Michael's famous chocolate pancakes are coming at ya, Mikey replied with as much jubilance as a soccer mom getting their kids ready for school.
Yes!
He'd been waiting for this for weeks. Soon the plates were filled with the legendary pancakes, and it didn't even take more than 5 minutes before they had been devoured ravenously by all four brothers. Well, it would be all four, if Mikey wasn't grinning and admiring his handiwork like a proud mother, because Mikey couldn't find himself joining them. He just looked on as they ate. He was thinking about other things, other strange things, like how close they were to things being so unbearably different, about how he had almost lost Leo and Raph, about how they had almost died. He would never have smelt their scent in again, heard their voices, touched their scales, felt their warmth, or, Mikey, you good, bro? He heard Leo ask, cutting off his inner monologue. Huh? Mikey asked, jumping a little. Apparently, he hadn't expected Leo to come and interrupt him while he was brooding inside of his mind. Are you okay? You haven't touched one bite of your practically perfect pancakes, Leo said somewhat dramatically. Oh, Mikey said, looking down at the pancakes he made that were cold and untouched. Donnie and Raph were looking at him concerned as well. I guess I'm not that hungry. Have you been eating? Donnie asked. Yeah, I have. Recently, too, Mikey lied. You know, I feel like that's a lie, Michelangelo. Because judging by your physical fatigue and also your rings under your eyes, as well as the somewhat languid idea of your physique, I can probably surmise that you haven't eaten in the last 3 days. So, what's going on with you? Because this type of behavior is not like you. The only reason you'd be having this behavior is because you are showing the telltale signs of having issues. But do not worry, I, as your brother Donnie, will help you, for I am a guru when it comes to all things insecure. So please, lay upon me your troubles, and I, as your guru, will help to guide you through this troubling time. It had actually been a couple of days. He quickly looked at his phone. Oh, Draxon wants to see me for something. We are not done talking here. Mikey, Leo said worriedly, but the box turtle was already halfway across the room. Can't talk, scene, Draxon, bye! The door slammed behind him as he tried to exit from the room. Have you ever been in that situation where you try to leave a room, but you can't think of a situation that's good enough to not hurt someone else's feelings when you want to leave? Yeah, that was one of those situations right now. And the rest of his brothers were getting suspicious. Mikey was wrapped in his own thoughts walking down the street, mindlessly headed towards April and Draxum's apartment complex. This is going to be fine. You're probably just overworked. Maybe a couple of days will do you some good. You just need to mesmero. Mikey's mind immediately went blank. He stood there, eyes swirling as one figure, well, one big and one much smaller one, approached him. Holy crack-a-doodle! I can't believe how easy that was! Hypno said as he picked up the turtle and placed him over his shoulders as Warren turned to look at him. He practically walked right into us! Ha ha ha! The fool! Now let's figure out what to do with him over dinner, Warren said happily. Oh, there's a place I've been wanting to try, Hypno said excitedly. Let's tie him up in order. Yes, maybe we can get him to commit crimes for us, Warren suggested. Ooh, I'll start writing things down once we have a minute. Let's put a pin in that, Hypno said as they rushed to the Channel 6 van. 2 hours had passed. Nothing that Draxum should have done should have held him up for this long. Leo would have felt better if Mikey had told him what he and Draxum were doing. He decided to text the Goat Man. He decided to even ring him just to get his attention. Draxum's profile now had a green dot beside him, a telltale sign of engagement. The heck do you want? Draxum texted. What are you up to? Leo texted back. The dots rotated for a minute before Draxum texted back with an angry emoji. Sleeping. It's my long weekend. No, I mean you and Mikey, Leo texted annoyed. What are you talking about? Michelangelo is not here and I didn't summon him. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm going back to sleep. Text or call me again and I might throw you off another building, Draxum growled. Well, growled in text. Leo mimicked his threat in a high-pitched voice. Me, 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 me. He then realized that Mikey had lied to him. But why would he? Leo sat down and thought about things for a minute, racking his brain for any sort of explanation as to why Mikey would have lied to him. Mikey had saved him from the prison dimension, even mocked the leader crying as he did so. He then spent every waking moment helping them with their thoughts as Dr. Feelings. He had realized that a lot of his behavior just before the invasion was because he was both grieving Gram and because he was terrified of the future. He tried to use his weaponized incompetence, but it didn't seem to work, because Raph actually believed in him, much to his surprise. Donnie was just working, and that was helping him heal to make the new layer fixed up and feel like, well, home as soon as possible. But Mikey had encouraged him to work on Sheldon next and even said his mystic powers could restore him completely. He comforted Leo one night when he was bawling his eyes out, admittedly for his guilt. But what about Mikey? What was Dr. Feelings doing for Mikey? Filled with worry, Leo immediately grabbed his katanas and stood up focusing on his brother. He slashed open a portal and entered it. Where he ended up? A warehouse. Why a warehouse? Just around the corner, he could see Hypno and Warren having a romantic dinner and chatting while they both discussed and wrote things down, like they were on some sort of weird blind date out of hell. Leo growled but heard grunting nearby, a familiar mumble. He quietly rushed over and saw Mikey with ropes around his upper arms, wrists, and ankles, a large black cloth over his mouth. His mask had been turned backward over his eyes. He was struggling wildly like a fish caught in a lure. Leo rushed over and placed a hand on his shoulder. Mikey yelped. Shh! It's me! Leo hissed as he pulled out his sword and cut all the ropes around his arms quickly. Once freed, Mikey immediately turned his mask around and pulled off the gag. Leo had cut his legs free. Mikey hung his head, only just making eye contact with Leo, who gave him a nervous smirk. So, how'd these guys get the drop on you? He asked, awkwardly. Mikey let out an agitated and embarrassed groan. Can we go home? I'm not feeling any Raz or Taz today, he sighed. Sure, but before we go, Leo muttered, turning toward the two mutants who were slowly peeking over a few boxes with a scowl. With a few quiet slashes of his sword, the two were now screaming and flying through several portals some ways away to the hidden city police. Once he watched for a couple of minutes, he closed the portal behind him. He then opened a new portal back home, in which Mikey gratefully followed him in. So it wasn't a complete lie, Leo heard Mikey say. I was going to see Draxon to see if I was sick, Mikey muttered. I wasn't paying attention like an idiot, and that's how they got me.
Mikey!
Raph and Donnie screamed out, rushing over. We were just about to come get you when we saw Leo. Are you all right? Donnie shouted.
Who took you?
Raph badgered. Guys, give him some air. I can explain everything. Leo began when they heard a small sob from Mikey. He hiccuped again. He gritted his teeth like he was trying to push something down, but it wasn't working as he choked out another sob. Within seconds, Mikey began wailing loudly, throwing his head back as he cried, loud tears streaming from his eyes, which were scrunched shut. The screams were dissolved into loud squeaks that baby turtles made when they were in distress. Impulsively, Mikey retracted into his shell. Leo immediately slid under him and caught Mikey. He turned to his brothers wide-eyed with concern. Go get Dad. He should be with April, Leo said. The two nodded and took off. Leo turned back to his brothers squealing and sobbing. He picked up his baby brother and walked to his bedroom, grabbing a blanket along the way. When he sat down on his bed, wrapped it around Mikey's shell, and began rubbing his hand over the carapace. Hey, buddy, it's okay. I know you didn't want to be sad for our sake. I know you didn't want us to worry, but it's not healthy. You got to take your own advice, Leo said as Mikey blubbered out a sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. It's been rough. Maybe a little too rough, Leo muttered, which might be my fault, he thought to himself. You've been tough, little brother. Like tough as nails, Leo said, hugging the shell close. But you can rest now. We're going to take care of you, like you've been taking care of us. Tomorrow we're going to go to a spa and get gorgeous. How's that sound? Mm-hmm, Mikey muttered to affirm yes. He continued to cry as Leo rubbed his back some more, whispering, it's okay, over and over and over again. At some point, he began churring out a tune with a bit of whistling. Eventually, falling asleep, not even realizing that he had shifted to pull Mikey closer in, or that his little brother had fallen asleep in his arms. He didn't even realize Raph was putting a blanket over them. For now, they needed sleep. But tomorrow, Mikey could begin healing.